everybody. Welcome back to Turnbuckle Bros. And today's show is going to be all about the disastrous last season for me with my first Classic League and how these guys fared in the first ever Turnbuckle League. And they've already started Turnbuckle League 2. We got a lot to unpack, a lot to talk about today. Got a new face of the show, some regulars. Of course, as always, Turnbuckle Bros, Matt Hewitt, Steve Mutsu. Be sure to like us. Be sure to subscribe to the channel at Turnbuckle Bros. Do it right now before this show goes on any longer. Leave a like, a comment, suggestion. What do you want us to talk about in regards to the greatest fantasy baseball, simulated baseball website in all the land, imaginesports.com. With us today, we've got Craig Natali back with us at the show from Chicago, Illinois. Craig, welcome back. We've got Papa G, Gary's back again. What's going on, Gary? Tyler Enzer coming to us with a fresh new haircut from California. And also, we've got Brian with us today. Brian's the first timer on Turnbuckle Bro. So welcome, everybody. Let's talk a little bit about what happened last season. As, of course, everybody knows, it was my first soiree with a standard league. Didn't go so well for me. And also, I just kind of gave up and stopped giving a shit about halfway through. Made some trades, and how it ended up is how a lot of people said it was going to end up, which is Tyler being the winner of the first ever Turnbuckle League, and I do believe that might have been even his first World Series. Is that right, Tyler?
No,
it wasn't. Okay.
No.
But as a lot of people predicted, Tyler ends up with the W. What happened? What'd you think? Craig, tell us about Turnbuckle League 1 and how it went and how it was for you.
Yeah, no problem, Matt. Obviously, big congrats to Tyler. Craig coming from Raleigh, North Carolina, by the way, go to Chicago for business. But and Matt, to your credit, right? This was not a regular Classic League, Matt. This was a 600 random pool draft, which meant extremely limited pool. So strategy is very different in that type of league. Just to be clear, you didn't bomb in a Classic Standard League. You bombed in an RA 600 league. So
I bombed in a really crazy, freaking all kinds of weird rule league is what I bombed in. But that's neither here nor there. DVD. Shout out to DVD.
Yeah, I think Tyler came in and, listen, Tyler and DVD, as we've got this massive Facebook thread going here, we have had for the entire league last year. Tyler and DVD take math on steroids here, right? These guys have algorithms and metrics, and they're doing archived stats and standard stats and all stats and park stats. And so, what they're doing holistically from a math perspective, I think dwarfs what 99% of us do, where I know Steve and I, we've had a couple of conversations, right? I look at the player pool and I'm like, I think I'm going to need a second baseman in about the next round or two. So clearly the math works for Tyler and performed really well last season. And I know personally for me, I hate spending $20 million on one guy and $100 million cap. And I did it on Jimmy Fox, and he went down twice. I think I lost him for 15 games total. I think I went 3-12 in the 15 games he was out because I was playing with an $80 million team. That's not the only reason, obviously. But nonetheless, big congrats to Tyler. So why don't we push off to him?
yeah, Tyler. The math, it worked out.
The math, I don't know. It works when I do it. I get good results with it, but it's not. I mean, Steve was right there with David. They came down to the last game of the season, and he doesn't do any of that stuff. I do it mainly because I enjoy doing it, and I like having it as a means of filtering all of the different players in the pool. But I don't know. I do it more because I like it than that I think I have to do it in order to do well in the game. I don't want to give the impression that if people aren't doing this, they're not going to do well.
Not everybody's going to do that, but it's a winning formula, and it works.
I guess we're all kind of doing it. Like I'm doing a remedial version of it in my head when I'm looking through it. I'm kind of doing it. I just don't take it to that extreme where I make a spreadsheet and all that. I just sort of do it on the fly.
I guess everyone does it to some degree, unless you're picking players at random. Which
What about you, Gary?
I just say I chip in with. I think I approach it like Craig and Steve. A basic formula of adding. You know what what's good and what's bad in terms of injury and arm, and so
And I mean,
that's helpful to get value. But I really enjoy the random 600 because that's about putting the team together. And when do you draft that second baseman?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so anyway, well, we get to this current draft. I had to do a lot of scrambling, but that's another story. And we were successful. We went to the World Series with Tyler, so I think
you finished with a better record than me. I was just going to point that out as well. We were in the same. I won the wild card, and you got the division.
Yeah.
So
you were in a tough division, Matt. Take solace, buddy.
Me and DVD came down to a tie. We had the same record, and then we had it took two tiebreakers and a 15-inning game to decide which one of us made the playoffs.
it's amazing.
Seemed like a fitting end due to the war of words, the heat between David and Steve.
I had a big lead at the end, and I made a trade for an injured player. That was in hindsight. I shouldn't have done that. That
was from Max Carey, Steve.
Yeah, Max Carey. I traded for an expensive, long injured player because I had a big lead and I thought it would be all right, but it wasn't. It didn't work out. But he got hurt again when he got back. He got hurt again. And then when he wasn't hurt, he sucked. So that's how that went.
That'll do it.
That's how it goes sometimes. Well, Brian's new to the league, right? Is Brian? Is he the one that took my spot in the new league, or was he in it last time?
Yes, he did. He took your spot.
So what are you thinking so far here, Brian? Did you follow the first league at all?
Not really. I mean, I watch your podcast. I always enjoy your
catch you.
Thank you for that.
Tomorrow,
you guys do a great job on it.
We have a real good catch up with the boys.
Yeah, so I thought about joining the first league, but I've done a lot of high cap leagues and with the full catalog. So it was outside of my comfort zone. But then when the spot opened up in the second league, I decided, what the hell?
There you go.
Can't hurt. And I can't do worse than you did.
No, nobody can do worse than I did. So take my spot and avenge me, Brian. Fill in that void that I left. Come on, give it. I'm rooting for Brian in this new week. To hell with all the rest of you.
I think I'm an underdog here. But, yeah.
And Charles is now a league member.
Oh,
yeah.
Charles is in now too. Okay.
Right, Wilson. Yep. That's right.
When Charles took Frisch, I think it was, as the first pick in the draft, I'm thinking, okay, well, he's one of the best players in the game, and he's going for total value. And that's not how I do live drafts. I've done like 1,000 live drafts, and I always go for impact. And so I'm sort of going against the grain because I get the feeling that a lot of the smart guys, Tyler, they're going for, okay, this guy's cost $11 million and he's worth $13 million. So I'm taking him number one. But I did it to the opposite. I said, all right, who's the biggest impact player left? Because this pool is going to shrink, and it's going to shrink fast. And so I need somebody to bat 3, I need somebody to bat 4, and I need somebody to bat 1. And I don't know. It's against the grain of some of the best owners in the game, so I'm not very confident, but that's how I approached it.
Well, I would say sometimes against the grain with a pool of managers and players like this might be the way to go. It just might give you a little bit of edge.
Right, and let's be clear, right? This is not a 600 league. This time it's a 700-player league. So still playing with about 15% of the player pool.
And it seems like it's worse. Don't it? The pool seems worse this time. Anybody else?
It definitely does. No,
it's
100%.
not a great pool. Maybe this is a time, Matt, if you want to pull up the top 20 batters in the pool by salary. So there's context we can provide to anybody who would be viewing this.
And do we want to just say who were Brian's top 2 picks? Was that on the screen, or do we want to? Because he was just talking about them, but I don't know if people know.
I think he took Melott and Johnny Mize, right?
That sounds
right.
Yeah.
Right.
And then he put him in that left-handed park too.
That's right.
So on the screen right now, we've got about the first 15 or so top hitters that
By salary.
in the draft.
By
By salary.
Yep.
By salary that were in the draft.
You know,
There's a
you
lot of
can
good players
tell
left.
this is not a great pool because in a limited draft, you look at the top 15 salaried hitters and half of them went undrafted. What does that tell you about value, right?
Wow. I'm noticing that. We got Jeff Bagwell, Paul Merrill, Mark McGuire, Harmon Killebrew, Barry Larkin.
And it's a lot of these guys that are at really high, like Barry Larkin at 15 something is just.
Yeah.
Barry Larkin, 15.1. That's a lot.
It's just too much, right?
It should be around 12.
Yeah.
Every single one of those top players is overpriced that are available.
Got Carlos Beltran at 14.5. I mean, Carlos Beltran was a great player, but I don't know about 14.5.
Now, there were some good. I mean, Gibson is at a reasonable price, and Hornsby is at a good price.
Right.
But
Do you want to go
drafted though?
Hey, Matt, can you do like the next pool of 20? Just scroll down a bit so we can see. So there you go. And again, you go down. Now we're down to under 13 million, and other guys not drafted, right? Colavito, Pinson, Keeler, Raines, Tony Gwynn. So
Ripken, he's overpriced too.
Yeah.
So just not a really compelling offensive pool of players, which then sometimes can force your hand from a drafting perspective.
Interesting group of players, too, I'm looking at here.
I don't think the high-end pitching was also a little... The cupboard was a little bare there, too. I think there was Pedro Martinez and Randy Johnson, but Johnson didn't get drafted. And I don't remember any other... I think there were a couple guys over 15 mil that no one drafted.
There was a ton of good, cheap pitchers available, too. There's a ton of them. There's still a bunch of them left.
Well, and look, philosophically, I mean, I can't spend 20% of my cap on a guy who's only going to impact 40 games, right?
I virtually never do that either.
I can't do it.
I can't do it.
I do have to say, in retrospect, I think Pedro Martinez, I probably should have taken him first round just because of the specific pool. I've never drafted a pitcher that expensive in a 100 mil cap, but it's when you look at the pool, one of the things that I noticed with this pool is that each million is not getting you 3 runs like it would in a typical pool. So somebody like Pedro Martinez really does stand out as somebody who is going to add a lot of wins to your team when, if you look at the comparable hitters at that price point, you could get 2 guys that are like 7 or 8 mil that exceed their production.
So Tyler, question for you, right? Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people have some sort of calibration with offense, right? It's X amount of runs per band, right? From fair to average are very good. And some people allocate extra for running or obviously for throwing arm. But I think pitching seems to be more art than science to some extent. Are you up for sharing how you would evaluate like 3 runs for a batter? That's easy. That's generally $1 million, right? But what is that in pitching?
I do it the exact same way in pitching, but it takes a lot more work because what I do is I take the offensive events that the pitcher gives up, and I convert those into I don't use RC, but it's sort of similar to RC.
Yep.
So you can get how many runs each pitcher will prevent relative to some baseline, and then use the runs prevented as your number of runs. So I basically treat pitchers identically to hitters, but it's tougher. There's more variability, and you can assume if a hitter stays healthy, they'll play every game. With a pitcher, you have to figure out how many innings they're going to pitch, and that definitely makes it a little trickier.
Let's talk about the top. Let's talk about the top 15 pitchers in terms of salary, which you guys drafted from. And it looks like the top one went undrafted, Randy Johnson. Nobody picked him up because he's at a modest $20.9 million for Randy Johnson. We've got CC Sabathia on here. As you get down further in the list, Dennis Martinez rounds about the top 11 pitcher here. Guy that I use a lot, Vita Blue, he's up there. Wow, okay. So, again, out of the top 15 pitchers drafted here, looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them were drafted. So you guys are spending some money on some pitching.
Yeah, but it was a really strategic sort of precision sniper draft as opposed to I'm just going to punt on X position because I can always get that guy at round 24. Well, you couldn't in this draft, right?
Yeah.
If you wanted to punt at a certain position, and look, take it for what it is. I philosophically try to punt at a position in every draft, right? Because I want an obvious upgrade, and I'd rather spend that money that way. But when there's only 700 guys in a pool, and I think all of us have a percentage of the pool we simply won't ever use, right? For various reasons. That 700 players is probably closer to 250 that we would ultimately want on our team. And if, 245 of those guys are going to be drafted, the math becomes more difficult. So, that was a big part of the scramble. If you could, Matt, pull up third base for just a minute, I want to give you an example of that. Yeah.
Third base.
I want to give an example of third base.
Tyler, Billy Grabarkowitz, just ahead of me.
A guy I'd never heard of until this draft. He had never popped up in any of my evaluations.
Well, he's good against right-handers.
Yeah, he's decent. I'm playing him both ways. He's better against righties, I think, if memory serves.
Well,
But,
Ernie Riles needs to earn a living too, so it all worked out.
Yeah, you're there, Matt. Just roll it down.
This was only the toughest positions, I think.
Yeah. So, and again, right, like I'm not going to use Harmon Killebrew at third base, right? He's on the list. I'm not using Mel out at third base. People have. I've seen out at third. I really haven't seen Killebrew at third much. I'm not going to use Pedro Guerrero at third base. So if you look at this particular player pool, for me, I thought Billy Nash was a great value there because it wasn't a great pool to begin with. I usually sort by RC 600, and he seemed like he was worth about $2 million more in this pool at 4 and change, based upon who was in the pool. So I drafted Billy Nash actually third, right, which is very early, typically for a guy that is that inexpensive at $4.5 million. But I thought the value was there for Billy Nash.
What's his feeling, Craig?
He's a very good 80.
Oh, yeah.
I treasure third base defense and center field defense. Yep.
So, that's just an example of, I don't think in a limited pool draft like that I've ever spent $4 million on my third pick in the draft. But after Bill Terry and Jimmy Sheckard, I saw that as a way to save whatever, $2 or $3 million based upon, like the guys above him. Silvio Garcia, as an example, is basically creates 5 more runs on offense, is the same fielder, and he's $4 million more, right? So I look at Billy Nash, I look at Silvio Garcia. I could have taken Garcia there, but to me, Nash was, maybe $2 million less in value than Garcia, and I got him for $4 million less, so I grabbed him.
I'm going to tell you guys my draft strategy I had this time. I wasn't going to, but okay, so you guys know that dude, his name starts with a K. He always posts lists that show like salary droppers and stuff, that guy.
Oh, yeah.
What's his name? Give him a shout. Yeah, what? That guy. Well, So I started looking at his list, like the biggest droppers, okay? Then I just looked at players on that list that were in our pool. And then I looked at those guys who I like, that I wanted. And then I looked at Tyler and DVD's drafts because I know how they pick. And, like, I knew you were about to pick Brago Roth. I knew it. Like, just watching, like, I knew that Asian first baseman I got, whatever his name is, I cannot say those guys' names. I can't do it. So
I don't know who it is.
He's a left-handed first baseman. I knew DVD was about to pick him, so I picked him. That's the way I know how you guys do it. So really, I was just like, well, I know they're going to want these guys. I just have to pick them before they do. That's how I did.
Brago Roth was definitely on my radar, but he wasn't a high because I don't think you took him till later, right? Like after the 10th round, maybe.
I took him right when I thought you were going to take him. That's when I took him. Like right when I thought you were about to pick him. That's when I picked him.
I ended up going with Junior Felix. I drafted him before I would have taken Brago Roth, and the idea was that Junior Felix can be my cheap DH, and then DH becomes my upgrade target. I would have taken Roth if he was still around, and then just used Junior Felix off the bench. But so you're definitely right that he was somebody I liked.
You probably like a lot to get those guys on that list, didn't you? Those droppers. They show up in your rankings.
So Tyler, I took Tuttle as a $2 million center fielder, kind of a little bit like Craig's thinking of. I thought and he seemed to do everything well. Not a great hitter. I just wondered where your rankings kind of had him.
What's his name?
Bill Tuttle.
I don't.
Oh, he's guess not on your radar.
No, he wasn't on my radar. But
well, he's very good running, very good fielding, very good arm. Has a low 300 on base both ways, and hits in the 650s. So a guy that you can certainly and he's $2 million. So
yeah.
Anyway, that was my kind of early low income pick. We'll see how it works out.
You know what I just noticed in the league that I commissioned and set the weekly incomes is that it's way different than I said it. I don't know how the hell that happened. I was like, what in the world is this? It's 2 million, 2 million, 2 million, 8 million. Did you guys see that?
Yeah.
Charles did that.
I don't know how that happened.
That was part of the thread. And I think Charles, we had a little discussion on that Facebook thread, Steve. And
8
Charles
million in one
Wolfson
That's
came in, and because we had originally talked about 3-3-3-3-3-5, right? Or something along those lines. And the decision was made, I guess, to keep it at 2, but pull an 8 halfway in to allow for a loan, but still penalize for that loan at 25%. So
it'd be interesting, easy for me to say, to see how that $8 million day pans out. That's going to be quite the day in the league. Maybe a lot of deals going on that day. That's going to be basically a kind of a hot trade deadline type of situation.
Well, I think it's also something. It'll be interesting when people start to borrow into that $8 million.
David already.
So if you're 4 days ahead of it, you're maybe not going to have that much interest. So there might be a little bit of cat and mouse there.
Well, Stanky just went right.
Yeah.
David took Stanky. He took out a $7 million loan. Grabbed Stanky, who let's be honest, in Griffith, you're going to lead Stanky off in Griffith. The guy's slugging might be under 300. He might slug 280 this year.
But his on base is crazy. It's like
it's very good, and I'm not going to doubt David in his strategy. He
had some offense. His team had no offense. He had to do something.
Right.
David's teams never have any offense.
Yeah, but this one was particularly bad at hitting.
In the second round,
I generally look at the team performance before I decide whether to take a loan or let it ride. Like if I'm 6-12 after the first week, then I might start looking at taking loans. But if I'm doing well, why would you waste that money?
And we're playing with a different interest and a different interest rate than normal. So we've got 10% interest on bank balances and a 20% interest on loans. So that changes things as well.
That 20% really has me holding off an extra week of when I might normally do something.
Mm-hmm.
And like you say, Brian, I'm thinking, well, it's not going to be ideal at second base, but maybe we can limp through the first week so we won't have to take out much of a loan. So I think that'll be interesting.
Right.
I know my second round pick. So my second round pick was one that a lot of people thought was crazy. So it might be worth talking about that.
What is it?
I took Frank Owen second. He's a $1.9 million pitcher, something like that.
Yeah,
I had him ready to go. Not that early.
Yeah, so
I liked him a lot. I had him like in the 8th and 9th round.
He was somebody that I'm like, okay, this is the best pitcher under $2 million, and
right.
I figured a lot of people would want him. And what I was thinking is, when I looked at the pitchers, for example, who were between 8 and 12 million, there wasn't any that stood out as outstanding value. So I was like, whoever's left when I get around to picking one of those pitchers, I'm going to be fine with. So I got Carl Mays. If I got Andy Pettitte, that would have been fine. If I got basically anybody in that range, I was going to be happy with them. There were no screaming values there. So I figured grab the guy who's going to be your fourth pitcher, because I wasn't going to be comfortable with any starting pitcher under 2 million. There were only a few that I liked.
Yeah, I agree with that. There was, a lot of times that fourth pitcher, you can get a decent, and Tyler, I don't know what you expect out of him, right? I mean, are
Not
you
a
hoping
lot.
are you hoping for 11 wins and an ERA of 4.4, right?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Yeah, exactly. So it does.
Well, we're getting to the point where we got a few more minutes left of the show, so I think maybe we should take a look at how the divisions line up and get a couple of final thoughts from you guys. We know Craig has a hard stop here in a few minutes, so here it is, everybody. Here are the way the divisions wrapped out. Being as I'm not in this league this year, what's that?
If you go to the scouting page, they can see the owners. Scouting opponent. There you go. There you go. Great.
All right. So we got Mike Corner as the Crimea Rivers once again.
Oh, I got money to spend. I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. It shows everybody's balance. Dane.
There you go.
Dane with $6 million still left with his Turnbuckle Wolverines.
Does Dodger Blue still have a ton of money?
He does. He has 19 million left.
Jesus.
Oh, wasn't he going to let it ride for a week or two?
So, yeah.
I don't know. That's a dangerous game to play.
I bet he spins it tonight.
He might.
I play in a lot of leagues with like 50% interest. You start off with a $50 million team, and then you get 50% interest, and those are really fun.
Holy doodle!
At 10% interest, it's like, yeah, I'm not trying to earn that interest.
Well, and I mean, maybe Dodger Blue will prove us wrong, but when I'm looking at this pool, I'm like, there's just not that much in the way of what I want to spend my money on. It's not such a deep pool that I would want to use this strategy, at least personally.
What we're going to get here, Tyler, is any from here on out, like whatever you spend money on, you're going to overpay.
Yes.
Right?
Definitely.
You're just going to overpay for anybody else going forward, because we took the best, 300 values out of 700 players, or whatever however the math works, 12 times 28.
If Matt would have had if he was going to draft, say, Randy Johnson in round 25 or something, but nobody else had any money, he might as well have just not drafted him and then built up the all that interest and then signed him, because it was only going to cost him $50,000 or something. Or
I mean, he could basically get Randy Johnson today if he wanted him.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
he earned that interest throughout the week. I don't know if it works out in his favor, but it seems like it should have, right?
So somebody did that in another league, and two guys did it, and they were up to 24 million, but they held on to the third week. So by the time they actually could spend it, it was too big a hill to climb. I thought that was a little long to wait.
I saw a guy do it through 6 or 7 weeks of a season and just barely missed the playoffs. It was amazing. That was in a standard league.
I think he'll probably spend that money tonight.
That's 5% interest, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he ended up getting like Musial and someone else in that class right at the deadline.
That's great if he doesn't have an off week or two.
Yeah.
Bingo, right? Because if you're going to spend that kind of money on somebody, you don't want an 18-game window. You don't even want a 36-game window. You want to give them as many games as they can to earn that $20 million, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think he's going to spend it tonight.
He might. He's still got a few hours to go. Season starts tomorrow. I think that's a good point. Good point to table the conversation now.
I'm not sure how much trading there's going to be. I'd be interested to hear, because I basically drafted so I wouldn't have to turn anybody in, and I kind of have my upgrade, but I don't have anything extra that I want to get rid of. Yeah.
Maybe when players start underperforming, though. That's what I did last year. Every time somebody was playing bad, I started sending trade offers for that guy. You know?
Steve, don't waste your time. I don't pay attention to that.
I don't either.
Tough competitors in this league, for sure. This is not a throwaway league by any stretch of the imagination. These are all high level, smart, experienced players. And I'm glad I'm not in this one. Quite frankly, I'm going to stick to SSG because I'm having lots of success over there. I wound up dead last in this league, but at the same time, I won a World Series in my SSG league. So I think I'm going to stick to that for a little while. And I think these guys have a long, arduous season ahead of them for Turnbuckle League number 2. It's a good place to table this conversation for now. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Again, hit the damn subscribe button. So many, you guys all watch it on the site, but none of you hit the damn button. Hit the damn button. Make us happy. Let's get us some subscribers going here at Turnbuckle Bros. For all the guys here, for Steve, Craig, Brian, Gary, Tyler, and Tyler's new haircut, this is Matt, Turnbuckle Bros, saying adios, everybody.
Take care.
Guys. Good luck. Look at that hairdo, man. Good luck, everybody. You don't even look like the same guy.
Turnbuckle Brothers, man.